The people who annoy you the most in your studio business are holding the exact key to unlocking the next level of growth in your studio business. Now, most studio owners dismiss complainers as toxic, high maintenance, impossible to please. But that reaction, annoyance, and then avoidance, and then dismissal can blind you to the precise feedback that you need that would fix broken systems, improve retention, and unlock next level growth. My name is Bryce Conlon. Welcome back to Dance Studio Advertising. And today we're going to get into the feedback that feels icky. But the feedback that feels the worst is often the most valuable. Why? Because it's raw, it's honest, it's unfiltered, and what you resist is actually usually the exact thing that you need to hear most to unlock the next level. Now, this is not theory. At DMM, we recently had to face this ourselves when our clients showed up and told us where we were falling short, letting them down, everything about how we handle our business. Let's get into it. So let's talk about why negative feedback hurts and why that's actually a good thing. So first of all, we all have what I call a discomfort instinct. If I feel attacked, if I feel thrown under the bus, if I feel something I'm doing wrong is being called out, then it must be wrong or bad. Why? Because as people, we like comfort. And so our goal is to find comfort and seek it out. But discomfort is often just growth trying to break through your own internal resistance. It's you saying, okay, I don't like that, so I'm going to avoid it, but it's the very thing that you need to grow. In his book, The Obstacle is the Way, Ryan Holiday makes the case from a Stoic standpoint that if you want to build something, you have to actually lean into the discomfort. And so I'm going to actually suggest that we reframe this idea of hard feedback, negative feedback, hearing things that I don't want to hear, feeling attacked when someone shows up with feedback that's less than glowing. And we actually, as business owners, need to reframe this. And instead of saying, oh my gosh, they're complaining and they're attacking me, we need to actually shift that to, they're giving me a gift right now. They are giving me a gift. Let me tell you a story that's going to actually solidify this, I think, in a really powerful way. One of the things that we do at DMM for all of our clients is every other week we have what we call our Power Hour. And this is really, it's just a place for studio owners that they've stabilized their businesses and now they're looking to accelerate and grow. It's a platform where they can show up and just say, here's what I'm struggling with in my business. Can anybody help? And that's from hiring and firing to marketing to sales to expanding to buying a studio and absorbing it into yours. It's everything that you need as a studio owner that's impacting your business today. That's how we showed up yesterday. That's what I showed up ready to expect. And so I came to the table, to the Power Hour, to this 2-hour mastermind environment and said, okay, I'm showing up here ready to help. But when we got into it with our clients, to be completely honest with you, we were the problem. And one of our clients showed up and I said, how are you showing up? How can I be helpful? And she said, well, I'm actually thinking about moving to one of your competitors. And I said, oh, okay. Tell me more. Tell me why. And she said, because they're doing this, 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 and this. But what they aren't doing is this, 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 and this. And so I'm here with you, but I'm kind of unhappy about it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thank you for telling me. And it didn't feel great, especially in front of 9 other people who were in the room and on the call. And then other people started jumping in and they started saying, actually, truthfully, me too. And so now I was feeling really vulnerable, really insecure. It didn't feel great. I felt like, oh my gosh, I kind of embarrassed, to be honest, like, we've really dropped the ball. And I could have let those feelings become the dominant thing. I could have got defensive about it. And instead, because I'm doing some growth myself as a human being and learning how to manage my own feelings properly, I got curious. Tell me more. Tell me more. And then for 2 hours, our clients unpacked exactly what it is that they want to see from us, exactly where we've been dropping the ball, exactly what would help them feel seen and safe, exactly what they need in terms of just product offering. And I will be honest with you, the result was spectacular. There was more trust in the room. The anxiety went down. People felt better. We had a blueprint to build a better service and stronger relationships with our clients. And it all started with me feeling, not great, I don't like this, this is uncomfortable, and somebody being unhappy about it. But the result was absolutely spectacular. And so I want to just spend a few minutes talking about how you can do that in your business, because it doesn't matter that you teach dance and we provide marketing partnership services for dance studios. At the end of the day, we all have customers, and customers are always going to be unhappy. And sometimes they show up and they tell you their grievances in a really productive and articulate way, which is super helpful. And it's an incredible gift when they do. But sometimes that gift shows up like complaining, like the sideways comment, like the post in the band, in the public band, where you're just like, what the heck? How could you say that? Why would you say it here? Why didn't you come to me? Sometimes it's a poorly written email. However it shows up, what do you do with it when it is showing up? And so really, first of all, I think that we should be, and I'm going to just make a declarative statement, that as business owners, we should actually be seeking out bad feedback, because a studio will lose like 30 dancers overnight. And they're like, I don't understand, because I sent out a feedback form and everyone was happy. Well, when we look at what the feedback form was, it wasn't really an honest feedback form. It's like, on a scale from 1 to 5, are you happy with, Bryce's amazing dance service? And people are going to say, yeah, I'm going to be a 3, 4, or 5, almost guaranteed. People are most likely not going to be giving you the real. And that's what you need as the business owner. Otherwise, you end up with the emperor who has no clothes. You are just naked and exposed and making messes everywhere, and you think everything's great, and your customers are like, forget this, we're going to the studio down the block. So how do you do that? How do you ask for feedback well? What should we be doing more of? What should we be doing less of? What is it that we can do to improve our service? If there was one thing that you'd like to see, what is it? Fill in the blank. Give people a real opportunity to give you honest feedback from your staff, from your parents, from your dancers. And that's going to start to help you understand how things are going in the corners of the business that you, A, may not be directly responsible for, or B, don't see and look at every single day. We all have blind spots. So what is one thing that we could do better this month? I would ask it every month, to be completely honest with you. And that's a change that we're making at DMM. So great, you get feedback, or maybe an angry parent is standing in front of you, or someone's complaining in the lobby and you hear it. Well, what do you do with that? Well, let's work on, as a group, as studio owners, business owners, learn to listen without defending and not try to solve the problem in the moment. I think one of the big mistakes that we make is when we hear something, we're like, let me tell you why you're wrong. And also, or even if we're like, you're right, let me fix it right now. That's not it. People most times just want to feel heard. In our Power Hour yesterday, one of the things that really blew my mind is there was a studio owner who sort of unpacked why she wasn't happy with, and to be honest, it wasn't our service, it was just some of our communication. It could have been better, and she's right. What happened is when I said, okay, let me tell you what we're doing, I watched her anxiety disappear, and she was like, thank you, that's all I needed. Now, that's super important, because I didn't actually solve the problem for her today. I didn't say, okay, I can solve it for you tomorrow. I said, listen, we have a plan. It's going to take us 4 months to get this up and running and put into place. And here's what we've done already, and here's what we have left to do. And the anxiety just dropped, and she went, thank you. Listen without defending. Don't solve it in the moment. However, you do need to solve it. We need to implement changes on feedback quickly and say, listen, you asked for this, we heard you, and we've listened, and here's what we've done, or here's what we are doing to remedy this problem. And why is that important? Well, some of the feedback that I heard yesterday, truthfully, is that we ask for feedback, we get the feedback, but then we're not stewarding it well. We're not taking it seriously, maybe enough, and actually moving it forward in a reasonable time frame. Why is that important? Well, if my kids show up and they say, hey, Dad, listen, when you do this thing or you do this thing, I don't like it. I feel unimportant. I feel unseen. I feel overlooked. All of those things would be really valid. And as a parent, it would be like, okay, I hear you. I hear that. But then if I don't do anything to adjust, all that does is sow distrust. And that's happening whether you realize it or not 95% of the time in your own studio when somebody shows up and says, hey, this is something that's not working. And again, they're not showing up and saying it that way. They're complaining, but they're still giving you their perspective. If somebody shows up and it says something vocally that they're not happy about, there's 10 other people in the room who also are thinking and feeling the same way. They just don't have the courage to say it. So let's dig into this idea of, well, is there toxic negativity? For sure. And let's dig into how you know if you're facing that true toxic negativity or if it's useful critiques. Because again, not all complaints are created equal. Some should just be ignored completely, but most are ignored too soon because we've tuned our ears as business owners to go, that's an annoyance. I don't want to hear it. I don't have time for this. So first thing is look for patterns. Is this one-off venting? Or have you heard this multiple times, multiple places, or even multiple times from the same person? That's going to be really helpful for you in terms of understanding where are we in this process. Again, you have problem parents who are giving you a gift. They're showing up and they're telling you what they'd like to see differently in the business. Are they saying it in a way that's easy to hear? Not always. But your job is to get curious about that. Hey, I hear you complaining about our costume fee. Tell me more about that. And you may find out that it has nothing to do with the fee at all. It's just how it was communicated or not communicated, when it was going to hit or how it was paid. It may be like, listen, I don't like this teacher. Great. What about the teacher do you not like? And then we're going to hear a story. Like, let's get into that because they are giving you a gift. Maybe that teacher needs to go. Maybe that teacher needs to be corrected. Maybe the teacher is doing a great job and the parent just misunderstood something that a kid shared. But either way, it gives you an opportunity to get into it. And one of the things that I say in my house all the time is that conflict is actually the gateway to intimacy. We tend to avoid these things because we don't like them. Because why? They're uncomfortable. You're saying things and I'm having things happen inside of me and I don't like that and I feel accused. But if we can take those things and just say, okay, I'm just going to listen without judgment and without defending and just really truly hear you out. Now I have insight into what's really happening inside of you and how I can improve my business. I'm going to encourage you to reframe your critics as unpaid consultants. And what does that mean? Well, it doesn't happen so much in the small business world, but that's actually not true. It does happen in the small business world. It's just groups like DSOA and More Than Just Great Dancing and Aaron Bird and Julie Kay. These are consultants. They're showing up and they're saying, hey, even DMM to some degree, we're showing up and we're saying, hey, here's how you can improve your business today. If you stop doing this and start doing this and this, then your business will get better. Well, you're paying money for that insight, and it's usually, truthfully, more generic and more general advice. It's based on these other 100 studios that I've met or known over the years. Your critics, your parents, your teachers, your staff, your dancers, they are giving you specific advice about your specific situation in studio. It's not a general, we've seen this as a best practice. It's, hey, if you just did this, I'd like your thing better. Okay, so why is this all important? Well, honestly, for several reasons. And the biggest one is rooted in a business principle called the service failure paradox. You can look this up. It is one of my favorite topics. The short version is, if you do a fantastic job and never make a mistake 100% of the time, you can't get better than that. And so you're good, but customer satisfaction is sort of plateaued and it's stuck. Whereas if you show up and you don't get it right and you get it wrong, but then you fix it and get it right again, people actually feel a deeper sense of satisfaction and, more importantly, loyalty to your brand. And so the lesson here, and this is seen time and time again, and it's the difference between companies that really succeed and have a lot of success. Think brands like Apple, Google, YouTube, Facebook. They took a lot of information in as they were building it, versus brands that aren't nearly as agreeable, that we don't love or like. Think your local cable company, your internet service provider. There's not a lot of love between those companies. And why is that? Because ultimately, people are going to stay where they feel heard. And so if every time you have a complainer in your business, it just gets dismissed or shut down, then people aren't going to stay. They're going to go somewhere where they are seen and heard. On the other hand, if you have complainers and you're like, I'm going to take some time to really listen to this person, you don't have to do anything with it. Just hearing them in a meaningful way is going to create loyalty. And that loyalty turns into, oh my gosh, you actually listened. And that's greater than any discount or referral bonus or freebie or perk or whatever you can offer. I feel heard. And I'm just going to tell you really honestly and truly, that is our secret sauce at DMM. And our clients will tell you all the time, do we get it wrong? You bet we do. Do we listen to how we got it wrong and then fix it fast? Yeah, we do. That's the reason why we've grown as quickly as we have. And I'm going to share an insider secret here. It's how we're going to start growing even faster. Once we make these changes that we were told today, you're going to start hearing more about DMM, not from us, but from studios that work with us. Why? Because of the loyalty loop. Because they're like, oh my God, I showed up and I said this thing and they fixed it, and they fixed it quickly, and they fixed it in these ways. And then they're going to do what? Tell their friends. So again, turn your critics, your biggest critics, the complainers, the people who annoy you the most, into your allies, because they're trying to tell you what they need. Often in a wrong way, often in a bad way, often in a way that doesn't feel great, but they are telling you what they need. Okay, so if this episode hit a nerve, honestly, whether it was a good way and you're like, okay, I know what I need to do, or in a hard way where you're like, this sucks, I would love to talk with you. As you well know, we always are offering free strategy calls for dance studio owners. They cost you nothing. They are valuable. We have received 5-star reviews on Google from people who just went through this and ultimately never actually worked with us. That's how powerful these are. They are more valuable than the paid consulting that you're doing elsewhere. I promise you, you will walk away with a plan on how to grow your business. If that's something that you want, feel free to reach out. If you've loved the show, share it with somebody that needs to hear this. It's the secret to your studio growth. And I highly, highly recommend that you get into it, that you lean into the discomfort, and you grow from there. That's it for this episode. See you same time, same place next week.